Hello, everyone. Today we're recording a new episode of Human Brain Expert, and today we're talking with the expert in the innovation management. He's Wulfen. Please, I'm sorry if I pronounce your name wrong because I don't have that much experience pronouncing names with German roots. Anyhow, that's my pleasure to meet you here virtually, and I believe our conversation should be interesting for our audience in multiple ways. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Of course, my pleasure, Evgenia. Sure.
I know. I know that you are a very impressive author of multiple approaches towards innovation management and towards innovation. Why this area? Why you believe that innovations deserve that much attention? Because, from one perspective, historically, we know that ideas come to somebody else, some scientist or whatever, had absolutely unexpectedly sometimes, and people don't think that much about innovations. So why do you think innovations is a very important subject matter?
Well, it's important because you want to survive. And when your environment changes, you have to change. If the environment changes faster outside than inside your organization, someday you'll be extinct. So it's all about survival. And of course, there are two kinds of innovation: incremental innovation, which is small steps, or radical innovation, disruptive innovation, which is a big jump. And sometimes, there's something new happening in the world, and either you jump or not. And if you don't jump, well, you might get extinct because 2/3 of the organizations of the S&P 500 in the United States are not there anymore after 50 years. They're gone. Huge old elephants died. So it's a matter of to innovate or to die, Evgenia, in the long run.
So it's basically the most necessary thing for the survival, for corporations, for organizations, for the human in general, right?
Yes.
So, can you please explain a little bit your path? How you actually came to the idea of bringing up different type of approaches to innovations?
Yes.
What about your background? Yes, tell us a little bit about your background.
Yes. So I started making innovation methodologies, making difficult things simple out of frustration, Evgenia. I'm a business economist, and afterwards I started in the fast-moving consumer goods industry as a marketeer. And there were old companies. Some are part of Heinz Kraft. You probably know them from the US, and man, oh man, they needed to innovate. So they said, Gijs, we want to continue our growth. Bring us new products, bring us new ideas. And of course, together with R&D, we developed new products, we tested them, and then we presented the business case to the management, and they say, no, but this and this and this, and are you sure? And I don't know, and this and this. It was pretty frustrating. Mm-hmm. And then the same repeat again after several years, and I switched companies, and it was again the same problem. So then I became a consultant for 8 years, and as a consultant, the project is yours. So we went into companies, we tried to change companies, but when we were out, and after a year we came back, one element of the consultancy program succeeded, and the other one didn't. What succeeded was cost savings, operational excellence, efficiency. But to grow the top line again with new business models, new customers, new products, whatever, that didn't succeed. And then I thought, oh, come on. How can we get those old elephants to dance again? And that's now almost 25 years ago. I quit a very nice, well-paid consultancy job, and I started to make innovation methodologies on how to start innovation. So
But you came from financial. It was financial. You were financial analyst, right? Because it's
no,
different.
I was a business economist, and
It's different.
a business economist, but that's a
Hmm.
bit different. But of
Yes.
course, I can read balance sheets and things like that. But I was on the
Hmm.
marketing side of business economics. So
Hmm.
yeah, so I started with marketing, trying to satisfy the customers of the organization.
Hmm.
This is how I started my career a long time ago.
So what do you think? I know that a lot of your books, the way you articulate ideas are like very structural. So what do you think is the most important thing? We know that we know that historically we heard one way and another about like continuous innovation or time 10 ways to basically innovate at a company, basically some organizational things related to how to organize team to be sure that you try tracking enough details, gathering enough other details that would be helpful in terms of like thinking process or think out of box. What, from your perspective, what do you think? What are the most important things, steps in the perspective wise, organizational business organization wise? What do you think? What are those most important key points?
Well, I can give two answers on that. The first thing is that innovation is, of course, something new. And the question is, how new must new be to be new? How new must new be to be new? Is it new to me? New to my department? Due to my company? Due to the market? Or new to the world? Well, for me, innovation at least is new to the market. Otherwise, everybody would be an innovator, but there can only be one innovator in the sector, the one who is first. Now, to do that, you need to combine three elements. First of all, there's always a new thing. Let's say a new technology. Then you can invent alone. But when you invent something, there has to be a need, right? So there has to be a market need. And you have to combine those. And when you combine a new technology with a new market need and you create an offer for it, you automatically have the third element is a business model. Because if you solve for me a relevant problem, I will change my behavior and I will pay for it. So innovation is combining new technology with market insights and a new business model.
So basically, it's some sort of reaction, but you're talking about like a reactional approach. So when you see there is something unique going on the market, like new technology, like we now experienced a lot, like generative AI or whatever, we see something like distinctively new. There is no way. I mean, you have to like do some certain of implementation at your work because without it you can move forward. So, and that sounds like really reactional. So you are more on the reactional side, more like on tracking the environments of business environments and basically reacting, right?
Well, I don't know. Reactional sounds a bit passive, so that's not what I mean at all. An innovator is the one who is active, who is the first. So I don't think that's reactional. The innovators are reactional. They see somebody else, they try to copy it. But the innovator is the first. But you have to combine. You have to combine three things, and some of them, like in my book, The Innovation Maze, you can start from technology. You can also start from strategy, or you can also start from an idea, or you can also start from the market. There are 3, 4 ways to start innovation. And in the end, they all need to make the combination. You have to combine a new technology with a customer need and a new business model. And to do that, you need two things. You need creativity on the one hand, you need originality, creativity, and you need discipline. Why? Coming up with an idea is not enough. Innovation is transforming ideas into impact. And to get impact, you need discipline. Because getting an idea, boom, boom, you're a dreamer. Dreamers get ideas. Innovators transform ideas into reality. And for that, you need discipline. And it's very, very interesting in the world that the warmer it gets on the world, the more creativity there is. And the colder it gets on the world, the more discipline there is. So I live now in Italy, Spain, I've lived in Greece, very creative, but a lack of discipline. I have been in Norway, in Sweden, in Finland, very cold, very much discipline, but less creativity. So you need to combine those things because you have to be the creativity to get the spark going, the idea going, and then you need the discipline to transform it into reality. So it's about combining those two things.
And the hardest question is how to do it, how to combine.
Yeah, that's the hardest question, yes. And the good news is, though, that there are hundreds of methodologies in the meantime. So, and innovation, you often do for the first time, everybody is pretty nervous. Oh my God. Oh, we're going to do something new. We're going to make all the mistakes. Will it work or not? Is there a market or not? Will customers pay or not? Can we make it or not, right? So at the start of innovation, you have 100% uncertainty. And when in the boardroom, you need to say yes to innovation, how much percent uncertainty do you want?
I believe the uncertainty and the amount of risk a company or a person can withstand, it's very psychological. It's very related to multiple factors, related to persona type.
My question is, how much innovation do you want when you are the CEO of an organization? How much uncertainty do you want when you want to say yes to innovation? How much?
From my perspective, that's all related to analysis, like really what is actually beneficial, cost efficient in terms of what we have currently, what kind of future.
Well, you are much more intelligent than most CEOs.
In line with all the values.
Everybody in the world says 0%. Everybody wants certainty to say yes. So what we do as innovators is we are reducing uncertainty from 100% from the start. In the innovation process, your stage gate process, you do all kinds of experiments to prove that you are right. Because in the boardroom, most of them only want to say yes when there's 100% certainty. And if they are uncertain, they will say no, 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 no. And that's the problem, and that's the frustration of lots of innovators. The risk averseness of people in management.
That's 100%. And now a lot of startups with very distinctive, like really new idea. It's very hard. They have a really hard time raising, with funds, with everything, because something absolutely like new and outstanding. First of all, it's very hard to get into people's brain. It's very hard to find a way simply because people are not ready for.
And those are the venture capitalists. And now we're talking mostly about the United States. But the United States is a very entrepreneurial country, right? If you look at Europe, or if you look at, for example, Japan, where my books have been translated in Japanese, and I come in Japan a lot, that's not an entrepreneurial country at all. So in the US, it's one of the most entrepreneurial countries and mindset. But in the rest of the world, it's much and much more conservative. And that's why US organizations are very entrepreneurial and European organizations are less entrepreneurial. And Japanese organizations are way less entrepreneurial. And this influences a lot the way you handle risk, and this influences a lot the way you innovate.
You know what? I believe that, like, all three countries you mentioned, they have different type of creativity, they have different type of approaches, and they have different set of values. I can't say absolutely that European people are less innovative or Japanese. We have multiple like Japan, I think number one in multiple ways in terms of like, well, let's put this
No,
way,
that's
they
not
are
true,
flying.
Evgenia. That's not true. Japan is number 13 in innovation, and I will explain this to you. When you look
But
at
we
the
all the let's say, as we literally took globally in United States uses formulas, uses approaches in commercial settings that were developed originally in Japan. A lot of like cars, car industries, a lot of like things related to how the quality of things, they were originated in Japan. Well, let's put this way.
how
I have a
long
lot
ago
of
was that, Evgenia? How long ago was that?
it's I mean we all I mean that's why we're discussing here, because it's always important to
So my
discuss things.
question is, how long ago was that? When
It
did
was
they adopt this?
yes, it was. We're talking about like originality of the things. Yes, it was a while ago.
So let me explain. Japan after World War II, there was nothing anymore. What they did then, the entrepreneurs of Japan took over. They created these big organizations. In the 70s and the 80s, we remember Japan being very innovative. But afterwards, and now we're talking about 50 years ago, then the managers took over. And as Peter Drucker said, a manager is hired to do things better, and a manager is not hired to have the courage to change new things and to come up with new things. So Japan, the last 50 years, has been the country of the Kaizen, and that's being adopted by everywhere in the world, right? The Demon Circle, Kaizen, as the Japanese call it, but Kaizen is an improvement method to do things better and better and better. And the Germans, they are great in it. And the Japanese, they master it. But that's completely different than coming up with new things. Because improvement leads to focus. Focus and focus, better and better and better and better and better and better. But then the electric light, Evgenia, was not invented in an improvement program of candle makers, right? It was technology. And here is where it lacks in Japan. And I come there every year, this year twice. I've just been there lecturing about innovation. And this is the problem. Out of the 125 hotspots and startups, you know where Japan is? Number one. Tokyo, Yokohama region is the number one inventors region of the world. Where is Japan in the 2024 in the top GII Innovation Index? On place number 13. And they are for years not in the top 10. Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, China are all above Japan. How does it come? Because the Japanese are inventors. They create new technology. But invention is something else than innovation. You have to transform the technology into a useful concept which satisfies needs and create business models. And that's where the Japanese really, really need to adapt and adopt and become much more human-oriented and market-oriented and customer-centered, right? So I think Japan is a perfect example of, on the one hand, great technology, smartest people, very intellectual, but they miss the design thinking part, the empathy part for the market, the empathy part, which, for example, in the US is great because, you know, there you have the entrepreneurs who create markets and who really can connect and really can unlock those unmet needs. And that's where Japan really that's really missing in Japan.
What would you say about what was the best way to track the market? What do you think what kind of metrics are the most appropriate, and what the best approach? Because we know that you can apply different type of ways. You can like track some metrics like internally. You can apply different type of approaches externally. You can use research firms. You can gather specific metrics related to demographics, etc. So what do you think? What are the most vital metrics market-wise, and how to track them?
Well, I don't believe in metrics at all, Evgenia. I don't believe at all. You know what really helps is visit customers yourself. The anthropologist way. Dig into customer behavior and try to understand your customer. Why does the customer do what he does? And what does he actually want? And this is something you can ask him, but a person doesn't know what he wants. He's used to certain behavior. And with your insights, hey, come on, I can improve this. I can make it quicker, more easier, faster, cheaper. I can make things much more comfortable for a person. And so you have to do both ends, because on the one hand, the anthropologist, you don't need the metrics. You really recognize a need from see somebody struggle. Hey, come on, he is struggling with that. We have this new technology and we can save it. So it's combining new technologies with customer frictions, as I call it, right? And of course, another perspective is you look at big data and try to see patterns, right? And of course, when proving the business case, so in an innovation process, at the front end of innovation, everything is qualitative. You got a hunch, you got an idea, and then you try to test it. And then you need to scale it up. And of course, during the stage gate process, near the end, of course, then you need all kind of metrics. Is there a problem solution fit? Is there a market solution fit? Is there a business model? And then you need to experiment, and you have to scale up those experiments to prove, to see if quantitatively, if the market is there and if the market is big enough, and if people really want to pay for your solution in such a way that you have a margin and be able to build a new factory, of course. But in the beginning is like, how do you discover those unmet needs? Is like being the anthropologist and dig into people's life and finding out the why. What does somebody wants and why? And how can we deliver this easier, quicker, in a better way, in a faster way, in a more beautiful way, or in a more simpler way, depending on the market.
May I ask you something? Because, in the United States, we know that United States is a very individualistic country, and we have very strong individuals in terms of innovations in inventions. And a lot of them, they were actually had a vision that sometimes, a lot of things people have no idea they need.
Of course, yes.
And a lot of things that you can't observe simply from the customers, because something has to be adopted. If something really truly innovative and truly new, they wouldn't even know the need exist.
Of course, yes. So you need to recognize it. This is exactly what I mean. We are, as a lot of things are low involvement or no involvement products. We don't even think about what we do, right? We have this automatic routine behavior, but you can really, for example, may I give a very practical example? A kitchen. When you watch somebody cook, it goes from one side of the kitchen to the other side of the kitchen, to one side of the kitchen to the other side of the kitchen. Why is that? That is because 100 years ago, we put the refrigerator was a cupboard with a block of ice in it. And then you had the stove, and you put the stove on the other side because you didn't want the ice to melt. Now, that was 100 years ago. Today, the refrigerators are electric. There's no block of ice in it. But still, in almost every kitchen, you go from one side to the other, from one side to the other. Why? Because people are used to have the refrigerator on the left and the stove on the right and not next to each other. Today, we could have the stove on top of the refrigerator, but we don't, because in our mindset, 100 years ago, you should separate the fridge from the stove. Now, nobody thinks this is a problem. Nobody, because we're used to it for generations to do it this way. But the first one who says, come on, I make an all-in-one refrigerator stove. Wow. Nobody thinks of it. And nobody asks for it, but it would make it much more easy, and you need much less space. So this is what I mean with when you look and you observe and learn about what people do, and we don't even see it as a problem because we don't know better. But if you know, hey, come on, we could combine this, then you have the creativity to come up with a new solution. And so this is the simple observant part. Of course, there's also now, with big data, you can look at patterns. You can, for example, patterns in mobile telephony, and you can recognize all kinds of patterns. And then you see, hey, there's this gap. Why is this gap there? But then you need to dig into, on a qualitative way, try to understand why people behave as they do.
You actually mentioned a very important thing in terms of so you mentioned behavioral patterns and finding the gaps in the behavioral patterns and finding the logic behind of it and coming up with idea to cover this. So the thing is, the good question, what is because I know a lot of innovators myself, and there are different approach, different vision regarding this question. So from your perspective, what is the best way to get into customers' head? What is the best way to understand their incentives, their simply approaches, their opinions, their perspectives, and what is the best way to get into the customers' sensational part, emotional part, regarding whatever you do, company or product? What is the best way to do it? What is your perspective?
People don't say what they do, and people don't do what they say. If you ask somebody a question, you get an answer. But do you try to please me? You can't say, no, I don't know this. I have never thought about this. So that's why I don't believe a lot in questionnaires and in oral market research. You always get an answer, but is it true or not? That's why I really believe in being the anthropologist. Be the little person here who always watches and see what people do. And then
I like the idea that you mentioned anthropology. It's very specific science. Yeah. Yes. Thank you for mentioning.
So I think this is how you really understand it. The problem of course, a lot of startups, and that's why startups are as ineffective as big companies. 9 out of 10 startups fail too, is because they don't know shit about the market they're talking about.
Well, for the most part, yes. And very often there are multiple components. There could be multiple components involved. And of course, any corporation has much more access to resources, much more simply data regarding.
No, but that's a big problem too. That's so a great startup, and all the startups know this. You pivot 2 or 3 times, right? Before you get to somewhere, right? Before, now it makes sense. And you need the time to pivot and pivot and pivot, meaning that you don't have the right solution. And the problems of startups are completely different than the problems of big organizations. Because the big organizations, you have a lot to defend. And an organization is like a human body. Anything which comes from the outside is tested. Oh, is this good or bad? And anything which comes to you the body tries to defend it like an immune system,
Mm-hmm.
which creates a lot of bureaucracy. That's why big organizations are so very, very, very bad in receiving new signals, because they made a system to defend the present business. And
Mm-hmm.
this defense system of the present business, this shields also all the new signals which come of them, and that's why the big ones are often too late, and
Mm-hmm.
then they buy the startups and the scale ups, you know,
Yes.
who and this is how they try to innovate with either corporate incubators, or they try to get the new businesses already when it's a business, because they themselves are too slow, or they don't even receive the signals of innovation because they're too slow to respond, or the wall of bureaucracy is so thick that they don't even notice that the market is changing.
100%. Actually, I agree with it. Well, huge organizations they really have hard time to adopt everything. For them, everything they do just acquire a new whatever startup, a new idea, or
Yeah.
simply buy it for royalty payment. Um, Anyhow, question: what do you think? Which innovations, the modern innovations, you believe are the most powerful? And what do you think about the current landscape? What your feelings, senses tells you regarding the future of humanity on a global scale?
Well, that are big questions, Evgenia, and I'm not. So I help organizations to innovate. The way organizations innovate is with the methodologies is the same all over the world,
Mm-hmm.
only we apply it different.
Mm-hmm.
Because innovation starts at the end of your comfort zone. So innovation is very cultural determined, because
Mm-hmm.
your comfort zone is like an elastic, and you have to make it bigger and bigger and bigger to make the abnormal normal. That's what innovation is, right? Innovation
Yes.
is something new, and to get it adapted, it becomes normal. And the way people do it depends on the culture. So if you want to become the world more innovative, then you see that people have to stretch their comfort zones because they have to change their behaviors. Now, talking about good and bad, I think, especially at this moment in world history, um, you know, I hope that we can make a better world out of this for everyone, a peaceful world. And which innovations are most useful? I think innovation that makes people happy. That's why I am trying to help everybody in the world to become a better innovator, to make this a better place to live and work and love each other. But then you
But
come to
you mentioned it's very interesting how you mentioned happiness because I'm the big researcher on that one of my companies, 3H Brains, healthy, happy, helpful brain, and you know what about happiness? You mentioned at the beginning that good innovator has to combine creativity with discipline. And we know the way how our brain works, it's very hard to satisfy the human, like naturally our brains really inclined to stick to the depression mode. That's the really.
yes.
And getting like happiness, it's a work.
Mhm.
It's a discipline, and that's and it requires like we know that cheap dopamine, it's very easy to get via digital devices. Does it
Mhm.
make us happy? No way. It gets us, it makes us depressed. We can get ADHD. We can develop an adulthood ADHD with this easy going dopamines, or we can develop really serious issues like taking medicine, Ozempic or whatever, that are like highly popular. Like 2 days ago, I saw article published in the Weird. The Weird magazine is pretty popular in the United States and the global. They have like millions. They have several millions readers globally. And they were posting psychotherapy involving ketamine. and they recommending application of ketamine on a public, really on an open public scale. I was shocked. That was my addition to the happiness. I meaning that happiness, it's a huge question, because are we able to make people happy, or we can just teach them how to develop their own approaches, because without own inner compass, their own understanding, it's very hard. It's very hard to find your own happiness. And it's very hard to navigate through all the temptations, through all the innovations, devices that triggers our whatever senses, and doesn't work for us in the way we prefer often. What do you think? Because you mentioned making people happy. That's a huge it's a huge
Well, of course,
question.
I think that happy is subjective, right?
Yeah,
What I
yes.
know, I'm not a researcher, and I think you are much more intellectual and intelligent than I am. But what I know, Evgenia, is this: that happiness for me is a state of mind, and I am in the fall of my life, while you are in spring of your life, and I think when you have experienced life for 2/3 or even 80% or whatever, or 90%, perhaps I'm at 95%, it's also a way of acceptance, right? Acceptance that things are as they are.
Oh my
And,
God, so big.
and
It's such a
then,
big. Mhm.
so it's not about wanting anymore. It's just, at my age, that the little things are the big things, and the big things, you strive for is like hot air going everywhere, and the really enjoyment, sits in deep human values, and I think that in we need to innovate. Why? In our strive not to get economically rich, but to get a happy life. And I think there is a balance there. And of course, the balance is different according to culture, according to
Yes,
religion,
and the
according to
things you
age,
mentioned,
according to.
you mentioned very important things about acceptance, personal state of mind. You know what? Generation after generation, we have different, people have different ideas. The more I know, especially in younger generation, they have different ideas of understanding what does it mean. What does it
Yeah.
mean to be internally have this state of happiness? You developed it because you have a lot of understanding of the reality. You're not reacting on many things. You have, that's your philosophy, your internal philosophy. A lot of people, they have hard time getting it. I'm saying you. So a lot of people have no idea how to get it.
No,
That's
no.
that's terrible. And the thing is, you mentioned really important subject matter, because what is the best approach to innovations, how to make people, how to do really something not just new, profitable, but socially oriented, you know that.
I lived in Greece for 5 years, also in the pandemic. And then, on Crete is an island,
Beautiful,
it's
beautiful.
a beautiful island. 80 million olive trees, and I saw more sheep than people. Nature is really rough, hot in the summer, but cold in the winter. 2 meters snow on top of the Lefka Ori on the White Mountains. And then, internet was hardly there, right? And you are back in nature again. And I discovered that less is more instead of more is more. And when you are in a consumption society, right, it's all about getting more, 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 more. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, you do that to give your children a better future. There you work, you want to get them to university, and you want your children to be happy. I am now over the hill. My children, I'm an empty nester, and for me, less is more. I don't have a car anymore, right? Why should I have a car, right? So less and less is more. So decluttering life, making life simple, accepting as it is, makes me able to enjoy it more. So,
Perfect advice.
and but I like to go back to innovation, because everybody has you know, an own vision about his life. And I don't say that a busy life in the middle of a city is bad. It's just a choice. What makes you happy at that moment? And what I
Mhm.
hope is that we make this world a better place, that everybody can be happy in his or her own way. There is no mold for it. There are perhaps, I don't know, 100 types of happiness. You've studied it. So, and I just like to say, okay, if there are 100 types of happiness, let's try to make people happy in these 100 different ways. And so I think that innovation should be for the good. And perhaps it's a bit naive, perhaps it's a bit 60s when I was born, but I believe in the essence, it's not about getting rich in the world, right? It's not about having a lot in the world, right? It's about getting happy in the world and make this world as a total place, you know, a peaceful place where everybody can benefit
Fine.
most of life.
Yes, that's perfect.
But
Thank you
we
so
are
much for
getting
the
a bit, we are getting
beautiful.
a bit how do I say, a bit um, um, it's it, um, how do I say
You
that?
mentioned everything. Everything is absolutely appropriate and very relevant to the current situation. You know,
Yes,
because that's true. That's true. When you that like we know money doesn't make anyone happy, and like constant fight, constant like running after more and more is just will not bring anyone happiness or whatever, relaxation, or it just creates more obstacles, barriers, and
yes, and also in the
especially
world of
social isolation.
technology, in the world of technology, I think technology should serve human beings in a way, um, to make
Yes,
us.
but that's the big question in terms of how to serve. What's the best way to serve humans?
Yeah,
It's complicated. It's complicated. We are in a human brain expo was created with this goal and with this purpose in mind to be in a search to better understand what does it mean, how to evaluate innovations from the perspective of social benefits.
Mhm.
But anyhow, like the last thing that I really would like to discuss. I know that in your books you're mentioning a lot of um, I know very distinct people who really made discovery, but in a different sense, like geographical discovery. So basically, when you read, like when I was reading other books for innovations, usually they're giving examples of people, whatever, entrepreneurs or popular people, or someone who basically got a lot of attention and a lot of appreciation publicly. But you, in your book, you got absolutely different perspective. You
Yes.
literally mentioning people who made like real, absolutely, discoveries that brought the humanity on absolutely new level. That we're not talking about like discovering a lamp. We're not talking about like Thomas Edison or whatever. We mentioning like Christopher Columb.
Yes.
Why do you think why do you mentioning him? Why do you think he
Well,
is
I will tell you. I will
a good
tell you.
example?
I was fascinated by the explorers of the world, by Christopher Columbus, or by Roald Amundsen, or by Magellan, and because they were the explorers, they went beyond where people normally would stop, and they were, continuously stretching their comfort zones. And so that's why the book I'm the most famous of is The Innovation Expedition. It's been translated in 8 languages, and the book. And I mention all the story about the explorers because we can learn a lot from them. And I see innovation as an expedition, not as a journey, but an expedition. An expedition because an expedition has a concrete goal. And what you do on an expedition, you start exploring again. Now, most people, everybody in an organization, the organization has its view, its cultures, the way things are done, the routines, and you have to break out of this. You have to, hello world, here I am again. Get rid of the focus of our operational excellence and get into innovation excellence. And then you need to explore. You need to get new insights. And to get new insights, you must postpone your judgment. Because this is normal and that is not, this is abnormal, yes. But the abnormal of today will be the normal of tomorrow. And that's what's called innovation. So you must postpone your judgment and you must learn again. And that's what the explorers did. They learned, they explored, and of course, some died even on their expeditions. But when you
yes, it's important thing. The things lots of explorers who like goes to mountains trying to discover new. There are a lot of them, and a lot of them actually died. We know
died,
about
yes,
it. Not that many of them.
But also, take the Mount Everest, right? 1953, here we go. And it failed already 9 times. And the 10th time it succeeded. And Hillary and the Sherpa were on top first. But Hillary wasn't English. Why would the English put an Australian on top of Mount Everest? They weren't meant to. Evans and Bourdillon, an Englishman and Welshman, they went first, until 300 meters on the top. But then their oxygen masks froze. And then Hillary and Tenzing could go quicker because the first team already made the route, could go quicker, and they were first on top, right? So they had a plan B with 2 top teams. If you look at Amundsen, why did Amundsen beat Scott on the South Pole? Well, Scott, he brought, the English, he brought horses to the South Pole and the first diesel tractors. But a diesel tractor freezes on the South Pole. Amundsen, after being on the North Pole, he lived with the Inuit and he saw how the Inuit used dogs. So Amundsen took dogs to the South Pole. He left 4 sledges with 52 dogs. And when he came back, he had only 1 sledge with 6 healthy dogs. Why? What do horses eat, Evgenia? Horses eat grass. How much grass is there on the South Pole?
Not much.
0, nothing. What do dogs eat? Dogs eat meat. And what are dogs made of?
They eat pretty much anything. They like piggies, One of them.
So Amundsen fed the weak dogs to keep the strong dogs strong, right? And that's what he learned. So what is innovation? Innovation is you see something in market A and you apply that principle on market B, which is new for market B, and that's how you innovate market B because it works in a different market. So there are so much parallels between the explorers of the 1500s, the 1600s, the 1700s, the 1800s, and the 1900s, and the real innovators. And
let's talk about, let's mention a little bit. What do you think in the mindset of explorer, like people who goes to the expedition, people, Christopher Columbus? What do you think? What is so special? What do you think? The key of the mindset, what kind of mindset we have to not be afraid?
Well, of course, I could give a romantic answer, but Columbus really did it for the money, right? It's honor and money, right? He negotiated well because he sailed for Spain and he didn't sail for Portugal. He sailed for Spain. He lived in Genoa at the moment, in the Republic of Genoa, which is now Italy. But he did it just for the money, right? Or for the honor, right? Because 2 things were important, money and a title, right? So that's what they promised. Isabel de Castilla promised him money and a title. And that's what's, so that's not really typical. But what he did, and that's what you see with most explorers, they have nothing to lose. Columbus had nothing to lose. And that's why he went, and that's why he took the risk. And because if you are really aware of risks, you won't take them. So he said, "Oh, come on, what do I have to lose? I only got things to win." And also, when you look at his crew were were ex-prisoners. He got them out of prison, and they could only get out because he needs to man his ships, the 3 ships.
I didn't know that, but it's classical. It's a classical approach.
It was really of people. And why did Columbus sail to the west? Because he couldn't sail to the east. He couldn't sail to the east. So Spain and Portugal were continuously with each other at war. And then you got the Treaty of Tordesillas in 1865. It was the Pope who said, this has to stop. And he drew a line straight from north to south. And the line just hit Brazil. That's why Portugal could go to Brazil. And that's why they only speak Portuguese in Brazil. The rest speak Spanish because the Portuguese has to stay on the right of the line. Now, Spain, Isabel de Castilla, wanted to go to the east, so she had to find a way to the west to go to the east, because she couldn't go to the east because that was Portuguese. And that's why Columbus sailed to the west, and that's why Isabel de Castilla rewarded him. So also then it was not exploration because of, oh, I'm an explorer. No, there were profits to gain, and there were the spices to gain, and Spain wanted the spices because the spices made them rich. And that's why they discovered the United States, because they wanted to go to the East Indies and they couldn't go east, so they had to go west. That's the story.
So it's literally the same situation with any other innovation. So it's basically, you have to be like really aware of the environment, and we, like, a lot of our actions very depend on the environment and the situation. Tell a little bit us about your program. Of course, I will leave all the links. How people can learn more from your approach, how they can find your books. Of course, I will leave in the description, and I will leave. It will be.
That's very kind of you. Yes, that's very kind of you. Yes. So what I do is, I train innovation facilitators. Why? Because your path is your power on the vast ocean of innovation. Only the methodology you have in the group. And I made this methodology, and I'm sharing this methodology all over the world. I do yearly 2 trainings, one in Japan in Japanese, and the other one in Italy in English. And innovation facilitators and consultants and innovators come from all over the world. The program is now this year, June 8 to 13. 6 days, I will learn you how to boost your innovation skills with this 4th innovation methodology. And it's a structured expedition, and that's why you can double the effectiveness of your innovation efforts. Because in this expedition, you learn how to explore, you learn how to build a business model, you learn how to understand customers, and the most important reason is you learn how to get management buy-in for innovation. Because that's the biggest problem. The biggest problem is to get your manager to say yes. And in this methodology, building management buy-in is embedded in the methodology. So I would love to learn that to you. Reach out to me or via email or via LinkedIn. And I would love to train you in the 4th innovation methodology.
Amazing. Sounds very interesting. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us. It was very interesting.
My pleasure, Evgenia. Yes, let's innovate this place and make it a better world. Thank you so much.